another episode of the Learn, Dream, Do show. Today we're exploring photography. The very word photography has a couple main parts. Photo, which means light, and graph, which means something written. So a photograph is something written or drawn by light. When most people take a picture of something, we just point the camera and push the button. Today we're going to try to take you a little bit past that typical point and shoot method so that you can think more creatively and use a few new techniques to capture more interesting images. So grab whatever camera you have on hand and let's jump in. Wow, your camera takes really good pictures.
Thanks, I taught it everything it knows.
It's time for a game of Candid or Pose. This is the exciting game where you guess if the people in the picture are striking a pose or if the picture is candid. And candid means that the people in the picture don't know that they're actually getting their picture taken. There will be 5 rounds. Go!
Have you ever heard of the golden rule? The golden rule is do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or treat others the way you want to be treated. That means respecting other people's wishes when it comes to photos and online privacy. It's so much fun to take pictures with friends and share them on social media or on the internet. But if it involves another person, you should ask their permission before posting it online. That's one of the ways you can be a good friend and a good digital citizen.
Photographers make art with their cameras. Instead of using different paintbrushes and colors, photographers use different camera angles. Let's explore how camera angles can communicate a message in a photo. Here is an eye level shot, and this is when your subject is at eye level. An eye level shot can result in a neutral perspective, not superior or inferior. This can help us connect to the person in the photo because it mimics how we see people in real life. Here is a low angle shot. This angle frames the subject from below their eye line. These camera shots can often emphasize the power dynamics between the characters. Low camera angle shots are perfect angles for signaling a powerful subject. In this case, the firefighter sure does look strong and heroic. For buildings, a low-angle camera shot can emphasize the height of the building. It exaggerates how far away the top of the building is from the viewer. This is a high-angle shot. It usually creates a feeling of a size difference or helplessness. But, as with every other camera angle, there are many applications. A high-angle shot can also be used to show how vast the landscape is. Here it is showing the horizon and the sky, and it is very dramatic. Camera angles can be another tool in your photographer toolbox. What camera angles do you like to use when you take photos?
When you hear someone say cheese, you know it's time to put on your biggest grin for the camera. But what do people in other countries say?
Paneer, patata, seeb, khobz, kimchi, uistiti.
Ugh, my face hurts.
If you would like to create some cool photos, try this easy selfie challenge. Now I know that we've all created selfies, but this selfie is for the shy people out there. We're gonna create selfies that hide our faces. Now let's get started. All you're gonna do is grab anything you can find and block your face. Here I am with a plant. You can use a book. And you can even use a balloon or bubble gum. What other types of creative photos and selfies can you create?
Did you know that the first ever recorded selfie actually happened in 1839? Using an opera glass and a lamp, Robert Cornelius stood for 15 minutes because early photography required such a long exposure time. Can you imagine having to wait 15 minutes? There's so much I can do in that time. But first, let me take a selfie.
All cameras have a few basic things in common. Number 1, a light-sensitive medium. On a film camera, the light-sensitive medium is the film. On a digital camera, the light-sensitive medium is an electric light sensor. This one and this one are both digital cameras because they use electric light sensors. Number 2 is the body of the camera, which protects the light-sensitive medium so that light only hits it when you want it to. The body of the camera has to be opaque so that no light gets in. The body of your camera on a smartphone or a tablet is just the body of your phone. The lens is number 3. That's the eye of the camera, and that can look like this on your smartphone or tablet, or it can be a little more complicated like this. This lens telescopes so that I can get closer to the object that I want a picture of. Most cameras, including smartphones, have a built-in lens that doesn't move, although you can buy attachments that give you a little more control over your image. Number 4 is the viewfinder, which is what you look through to compose your image. You're probably used to a viewfinder that looks like this, where you can see on your whole screen what your picture is going to look like. A viewfinder can also be a tiny square that you look through. Number 5 is the flash, which lets you add extra light to dark scenes. What's it like to be a professional photographer? I spoke with Todd Overman, Public Relations Specialist and Photographer for the Fort Worth Public Library, and Andrea Peterson, Communications Assistant and Photographer for a Member of Congress in Houston, to find out. How did you become a photographer?
Well, let me tell you, I love to take photos. And when I was a kid, I used to draw pictures all the time. And so when I got my first camera when I was 10, it was just another way to create some pictures. I would take pictures of my family and friends and my toys. If we took a trip, I'd take pictures then too.
I first got interested in photography as a kid when I saw photos of my parents from before I was born. The feelings that came from those old photos were what made me want to start making my own photos. What sort of memories would I leave behind? And would they be the kind of photos people would want to look at? Somebody wanted to buy one of the photos I made while I was in a different country, and I had never perceived that somebody might want to have a photo or pay money for a photo that I took that wasn't their memory, it was mine.
What does a typical workday look like for you?
So each day is actually very different in my job because my boss has lots of different people she meets with every single day, and I am always there to take those photos. I introduce myself to the people who she's meeting with, and I ask if it's okay if I take photos of them. It's always important to ask for permission when you're taking photos of somebody that might be seen elsewhere. If it's to go on the internet, if it's for an elected official like I work with, it's important to ask. And then after each event, I go home and I upload the photos. Sometimes it can just be 30 or 40 photos. Other times it will be 1,000. So I have to go through and sort and figure out which ones are the best ones, which ones aren't blurry, which ones have smiles on everyone's faces and nobody's blinking. And then I go through and I edit them. For politics, I make sure that the photos look realistic. And when I edit them for weddings or for families, I try to give them a little style to make them more interesting and warm.
What are some of your favorite things to take pictures of?
I love taking photos of everything, but my absolute favorite subjects are people. And I got that love, especially when I went to college. I studied journalism, and journalism is the gathering and sharing of news, important things that happen, unique things that happen. And so I got to photograph a lot of different people when I was working for newspapers. And if I'm not photographing people, my second favorite thing to take pictures of is my dog.
What's a fun thing you've gotten to do for work?
Coolest thing I've gotten to do for my job is riding in a Coast Guard helicopter. We got to go in the air and take photos.
What are some challenges photographers can face?
Photography can be a little challenging because what you're doing, you're freezing a moment in time. And to do that, you've got to be in the right place at the right time and have your camera ready. Sometimes it doesn't quite work. Sometimes you get a good photo, but it may not be the best photo. But when it does happen, wow, it's the greatest feeling.
What advice can you give to kids who are interested in photography?
A great way to begin learning about photography is to read everything you can on the subject. There are a lot of informative videos online, if you get your parents' permission to watch some of those. Also, practice. Practice, practice, practice. If you have access to an old camera or maybe even an old phone your parents aren't using, ask them if you can take it out and take some photos. Now, one other way to make photography mean even more is to combine it with something else you already love. Do you love animals? Do you love sports? Take photos of those things and it'll drive you to get even better than just simply the act of taking a photo. But the most important thing I can think of is have fun.
Cultivate your passions. I didn't know that I could make a career out of my favorite thing. I just enjoyed photography. I kept working on it. I just decided I wanted to make really great photos. And eventually that led somewhere. If you're already into photography, strongly recommend making photos, not taking photos. You're going in there to tell a story. You're not just consuming the experience of what you saw. You're there to say, this is what I saw. This is how I perceived this experience. You are making the photo. And the way that you make that photo might change somebody else's perspective. So go out there and make some memories.
Thank you both so much for joining us.
The term composition in photography can be defined as positioning the object in the frame in such a way that the viewer's eye is automatically drawn to the most interesting or significant area of the photo. Let's go ahead and take a look at this picture. What is your eye being drawn to? If you said the quilt, you're right. Notice how the quilt isn't in the center of the frame, but yet this image still feels balanced and pleasing to the eye. Let's take a look at another image. This time, it's a picture of the Space Needle in Seattle, Washington. Notice in this image that the Space Needle is at an angle, but yet it doesn't feel unnatural and it kind of guides your eye around the frame. Let's take a look at one last picture. Looks like this family portrait needs to have some better composition as we can't see everybody in it. That's better. Now you can see everybody.
I've got a camera trick to share with you today. Now, it's called the rule of thirds, and this rule means that we're going to divide up this section right here like a tic-tac-toe grid. Just like that. And now that it's divided up, you can see that there are these 4 points right here, and there are 9 squares. Now, most of the time, people will take pictures and put their subject right here in the very middle square, right? But the human eye is naturally drawn to these 4 intersecting points or any of the outside squares. So if you want to make your photo more interesting, you can try putting things on the side of the picture, or all the way on the other side, or even all the way down at the bottom. And that helps people kind of focus on what you want them to look at in your picture. Let's look at these next photos and see how they line up. This first picture is of a tomato cut in half. See how it's placed on the right side of the frame? Let's see if it lines up with our grid. It does! See right there? The center line where the tomato changes color hits 2 of those points where the lines cross. Our next picture is our friend Dynamite the corn snake wearing a silly hat. See how she's on the left side of the frame? Her cute little nose and the puffball in her hat line up with the grid nicely. In this picture, we have our friend Jim, the yellow-bellied slider turtle in a little straw hat. He's also on the left side of the picture, but he takes up a little bit more room. Let's look at our grid. There you go. See, he's in the left 2/3 of the picture. Our last photo is our friend Mercury the lizard in a cowboy hat. See how her eye is right on the cross-section of those 2 lines? That helps us as viewers make eye contact with her. Those were some great pictures. What can you do with the rule of thirds?
One way to become a better photographer is to look closely at the photos that already exist. Just like words, photographs can tell stories, and they can communicate a lot about what it's like to be human. When you look at a photo, you can read it by looking carefully. Let's try it together. Here's a photo. Describe what you see. What do you think it's about? What moods or feelings are expressed? How can you tell? How do you think that the photographer was feeling when they took this picture? Are there any clues about when or where it was made? There aren't always. As we learn more about techniques used to create photos, try looking for those techniques in the photos you see. Also look for the ways that those photos tell stories.
Did you know that you can tell a story with just pictures? You can! Let's look at the next 3 pictures and see what kind of story we can make up together. Okay, I saw a few things in the pictures that might help us get started. Let's just zoom in here a little bit. In the first picture, we see the hamster with a sword and a shield. She's probably a knight. What kind of knight? Well, she's got a little green acorn on her shield and on the castle banners, so let's call her the Acorn Knight, defender of Castle Acorn. Who else showed up in the pictures? A dragon. Based on the backgrounds with all the trees near him, he's probably a forest dragon. We see the sword pointing up at the dragon, and his claws are up and swiping at the Acorn Knight. Well, let's try out a story using those details. Once upon a time, there was a brave hamster, a defender of Acorn Castle. So brave was she was called the Acorn Knight. One day, there was a hungry dragon approaching the castle. The knight was called upon to stop the dragon before he got too close and ate the villagers. And so, she bravely ventured into the woods. She climbed a mountain where the forest dragon lay in wait, hoping for an easy meal. But the Acorn Knight was too clever for that. She was careful. She saw the dragon up the hill and charged. Before he could breathe fire or swipe her with his claws, she swung. Her sword flew straight and true, and the dragon fell. Castle Acorn was safe for another day. Now I challenge you. We've seen an example of what a photo series can look like. Now what stories can you tell with your pictures?
The world's very first photo taken with a camera is in a museum here in Texas. It's on permanent display at the Harry Ransom Center on the campus of the University of Texas at Austin. It was taken by a French inventor in 1827, and it's a little hard to make out, but this was the view looking out the window of his workroom in France. He used a process called heliograph, or sunwriting. It took several days for these faint images of the courtyard, trees, and buildings to appear. Can you imagine waiting several days just to take a picture?
Lighting is an important part of photography, and lighting can dramatically change the mood or feeling of your photos. Did you know that you can get a job as a lighting designer? I went to college and became a lighting designer for theater shows, and even had the chance to create light designs for a few shows here in the DFW area. There are a few rules of thumb when it comes to creating different moods. For instance, if you want a happy feel or joyful feel, you would use lots of light and bright colors, such as those on a sunny day. If you wanted a photo to feel more sad, you might use more muted colors and the light would be darker, such as the light coming from a cloudy day. If you were taking a portrait of someone to make them look more mischievous or evil, you would use smaller amounts of light and usually from underneath their face. Adding colored lights can also affect how your photo feels. Maybe you want a photo to feel more futuristic or dreamlike. You can use vibrant colors. Sometimes you don't even have to use light on your subjects to make a big impression. You can use light from behind them to silhouette and bring the focus down onto your subjects. So something as simple as lighting can play a big factor in the feel of your photo and also can help you shift focus from one place to another. So experiment by taking photos throughout the day and find out what feelings you want to create with those photos. You can also set up your own home studio. You don't need expensive equipment to do it. You can use simple lamps and flashlights to create really cool moods. Trust me guys, you'll be having fun in a flash. Sometimes you'll hear photographers talk about golden hour. Golden hour is the first hour after the sun rises or the last hour before the sun sets. During this time in the morning and evening, the sun is at a lower angle, which provides several different things, including diffused light, a warmer quality to the light. It also provides longer and softer shadows, so when taking portraits, it's really pleasing to the eye.
Stand back, crab. Just kidding. My name is Miss Michael from the Seminary South Branch, and I'm going to be teaching you about forced perspective photography. So this is what you'll need to get started. A device with a camera, a few fun items, and grab some friends. It's more fun that way. So what is forced perspective photography, you ask? Well, our brains are bombarded by images the entire time we're awake, and so it can be easy to trick our brains into seeing something that is not there, just at a glance. For these pictures, I asked Andrew to sit on his side. It made it appear as though he was on a ledge, peering down the side of a building. The key to this forced perspective photography is to move your camera from one direction to another, changing the angle and changing the view your eye has on the image. For example, if you take this picture of Corey where it looks like she's falling, if we straighten out the image, you lose the effect, and now you can tell she's just laying on the ground. Holy smokes, can Corey levitate? Of course not, but we tricked our eye into believing she could because we added some water to some concrete, making it seem as though there was a shadow at the bottom of her feet. There are a few simple rules to the tiny person trick. First, both people need to be in the same amount of light, so I chose a well-lit area outdoors. Then you want one person to stand far back and the other person to stay close up. You never want them to actually look at each other. You want them to either look forward or if they're holding an object in their hand to look at the object. Then the person in the back can pose and we can once again fool our brains. Everybody run for your lives! Oh no, forced perspective got me again. So what did we learn here? We have a small object, this tiny toy dinosaur, and the closer you bring it to your camera, the larger it appears. You want to actually tap on the people that are in the back or adjust or focus on them, because if you focus on the people in the back, it'll make it seem like the dinosaur and the people are actually at the same level, tricking our eye into thinking there is a giant dinosaur on the loose. So now that you know how it's done, get out there and trick some brains, and I can't wait to see your very own forced photography pictures on our Facebook page.
Do you want to take your digital photos to the next level? Well, there's plenty of free apps for that. This is just one example. It's available for Android and Apple. It's called Photoshop Express. What you're going to do is you're going to open up the app and pull up your image that you want to edit. I'm going to pick this fun chicken image. Here you can change the coloring. I like the colors that I have, and so I'm not going to change it. You can also change the cropping. Let's go ahead and change the bottom and the side to clean it up. Another thing I can do is rotate the image so that it is leveled with the frame. So if you tend to stand with a slant while you take photos, don't worry, you can always change it. Here, you can add corrections like sharpening the image or even adding a blur. I'm not going to do that, but what I am going to do is zoom in and demonstrate how you can remove blemishes. Here you go, Aussie. She's a chicken. Let's make you a beautiful woman for the camera. Not that this chicken needs it. What you can do is correct any red eyes. I don't see any red eyes in this photo, so I'm going to skip that part. Now, here's the fun part. You can add stickers to the image. I'm going to make them into party chickens. Be sure to select outside of the box once you finish placing the stickers. Let's resize this mask and put it on Mommy the chicken. Here you go, Mommy. She likes to masquerade like she's a parrot. Now, I have to add a tie for Doggy the chicken. Now, she's very business professional. Next, let's add a fun little bow for Aussie the chicken. What we can do here is add a frame for the image. I'm going to choose this frame because it looks like a Polaroid picture. Now I'm going to go in and add some text. Here we will type, work hard, play hard. I'm going to put that phrase in because this is their egg box and this is where they should be working, but instead they all crowded in and are having a little chicken party. Finally, we're going to change the text color. Ta-da! Finished! Then we will hit next and then save the image. What can you do with your photo editor? I'd love to see. Feel free to post any photos that you do in the comments below.
Check out the photos we've captured. We like pictures at museums and art, photos of brightly colored businesses and homes, fences, lots of fences, and birds, and nature. What types of photos do you create? There are many types of photographers in the world. I wonder what kind I should be. I could be an aerial photographer and use my drone to take pictures of things from high in the sky. I love wild animals. I could travel the world and take pictures of animals in their natural habitat. Babies are so cute. I know. I could be a newborn photographer and take pictures of babies while they're sleeping. Whoa, is that Beyonce? I know. I'll move to Hollywood and take pictures of celebrities on the red carpet. There are so many types of photographers, and if you want to be one, all you have to do is pick up any type of camera and start practicing.
What did the picture say to the camera? I've been framed!
Thank you so much for watching our Learn, Dream, Do episode on photography. I hope we've sparked your interest in this great art and hobby. If we have, the Fort Worth Public Library is here for you. All you have to do is log in to our website, fwpl.overdrive.com. Here we have ebooks, magazines, and even audiobooks. What you'll do is use your library card to sign in. I've already signed in with my library card, and I'm going to search for my subject, which is photography. You'll type it in and hit enter, and here we have great free resources for you. Here we have a magazine. It's an e-magazine that you can read on your digital devices. I see this magazine that's about street and architecture photography, portraits, still life, and even wildlife photography. Let's go ahead and borrow one of these magazines. I'll click borrow, and this magazine will be mine for 14 days. Great. And once again, you'll hit borrow. The next step is maybe you're interested in ebooks instead of magazines. What we'll do now is we'll pull over on the left, and you can see we can filter out our results. I only want nonfiction books. Let's see what I get. Aha! I see digital photography FAQs, clever digital photography ideas, and even everything digital photography book. I'm going to go ahead and check out this clever digital photography ideas book. Once again, you'll hit borrow, and this book will be mine for 14 days. Great. Once you've finished checking out the books and magazines that you're interested in, to access your resources, you'll go ahead and go to your bookshelf right up here. And here you have all the resources that you've checked out. You'll feel free to read it on your browser or on your Kindle. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye!
Coming up next week on the Learn, Dream, Do show.